It's not.
Okay. We do have a quorum otherwise. Welcome everyone to the June 25th, 2026 session of the Board of Zoning Appeals. Do I have a motion to begin the meeting?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone?
Aye.
Welcome, Elliot. As a matter of protocol, we're going to follow our agenda. We will first begin by addressing our minutes, and then we will follow our agenda. It may or may not be in the order in which it's printed. In this case, it will not be in the order in which it's printed. How it's going to work is we will have the applicant come forward, and then the staff will give us a report. After that, the applicant will come up and state their case as well. We will open the public hearing for anyone that wants to speak for the request or for anyone that wants to speak against the request. After that, we will close the public hearing and then the body will deliberate. We may or may not need to go into what's called a deliberative session to speak with legal counsel. Anyone who wishes to give testimony today, will you please get sworn in?
Yes, I do.
Okay, thank you. We are going to begin with agenda item number 4, which is a variance from Appendix A to reduce the side setback from 12 foot to 10 foot and the rear setback from 20 foot to 16.5 foot for a 10 foot by 30 foot covered porch. The applicant is PJ Rocco Consulting. Attention, Paul Rocco. Parcel is owned by Charles and Joe Turnell. It's in Magnolia Springs subdivision, lot 232 at 43 Ainsley Way. It's 0.17 acres in the residential growth district with the parcel ID noted in the agenda. Mr. Rocco, if you'd like to introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chair, board members, staff. I'm Paul Rocco. I'm a local land use consultant here on behalf of Mr. Turnell.
Thank you, sir. And whenever staff's ready.
Thank you. Yes, so the subject parcel is lot 232 of the Magnolia Springs subdivision, which was recorded in September of 2021. And pursuant to Appendix A, as you stated, the zoning ordinance, required setback for this is 25 front, 12 side, and 20 rear. The applicant is requesting to retroactively reduce the rear setback requirement from 20 feet to 16.5 feet and the side setback from 12 feet to 10 feet to accommodate a 10 by 30 covered porch.
Thank you, sir. Is there any questions for staff? Okay, Mr. Rocco.
Thank you, sir. This is a lot in the Magnolia Springs subdivision. As most of you are aware, is a smaller lot subdivision in the county. Not quite the little subdivision where you have a reduced setback, but close to that. This was developed by a tri-state developer and then sold to a national builder who built all the houses in there pretty quickly. Mr. Turnell is an elderly gentleman with his wife who purchased in here and inquired at the time whether or not he could add a deck on the back for his wife, and the answer was yes, but it was better to build it later. Which I know and the staff knows that usually that's code for it won't fit there basically as a small lot. Staff also understands that there's kind of a dilemma with the ordinances right now on these subdivision regulations and setback regulations where builders are actually maxing the footprint on these smaller lots and doesn't have much land left to put anything on. But nevertheless, he relied on that information and purchased the property. At some point, within a couple months, somebody knocked on the door and said, "I hear you want a deck." And they negotiated, and the gentleman, my client, asked the person knocking on the door, as long as it's to code and you're licensed, and they assured him it was, and it will be built to code. He flat out relied on that and thought they were going to get the building permit. Turns out came to his attention by the HOA that there was no permit on record, and it was built within the setbacks, both on the rear by about 3 feet and to the side. If you notice by the pictures that I submitted and the tax maps, there's that indentation on the side, back rear, I guess that they didn't figure on. But on that side, if you also look at the pictures, you'll notice that there is a large drainage swell between the properties and the next house. So there will be a setback between this property and the next row of houses that have been constructed already. And then to the rear, everybody in this neighborhood seems to like these 6-foot opaque white fences. So as you see in the photos that I submitted, it's completely surrounded by the fence, so there won't be a visual impact of what was built. But it is just 10 foot deep and the length of the back of its property. The buffer between the property, the fence, and the next property, as you can see, is being used by heavy equipment and truck parking behind. So on the rear setback line, there's already, the neighbor is using it for vehicle storage, essentially. So it doesn't really impact the neighbors. And it's not in terms of a self-imposed hardship. And in the big picture, it may be because he didn't check into it himself, but he relied on that good faith that he had that this would be built to code and all the standards and regulations that go with it. He has since now had to get an engineer to certify the construction, which he did. He had to pay for an engineer. Obviously, he had to pay for me to rectify the setbacks, but an engineer so he could now apply for a building permit. And if you build without a permit, you need to prove that it's constructed to the current IBC building code. So he's accomplished that. He's accomplished the survey as built to show the exact specifications that it was built and the exact measurements of the setback encroachment. And he now has to go to the HOA to get their approval, but all of which have said is fine if you get the zoning variance. So that's why we're here attempting for those zoning variances. Again, it shouldn't be an impact. He has talked to all of his neighbors and none of them mind it. And it has been posted, and I don't see anybody here for that one. So would hope that you would grant that variance just because it was a mistake in this case. And he relied on information that he shouldn't have. Hopefully the setbacks can be reduced for these more dense subdivisions. These are setbacks that are still set up for larger lots. The town setbacks can go down as small as 10 feet around, 5 feet on the sides even, because the idea is to get more houses in. But other than that, would ask for that variance for this gentleman and his wife.
Thank you. Any questions for the applicant?
Yes. Who was the contractor on the deck?
He just said that I have to still get that information because I'm actually filing for the building permit and I'm still trying to track that down. It was just a gentleman that knocked on his door and they built it the next weekend.
Or you just say Mr. Turnell is an elderly individual?
Yes. 83.
Was the builder paid in full?
He was. That's usually the idea when that type of thing happens. They're getting cash, getting in, getting out. And I looked at the as-built and it is decently constructed. It has passed BOCA because I'll be able to get a building permit from the as-built plans.
Anything else?
Yeah,
Elliot, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not.
It's just 3.5 feet and 2 feet. I mean,
Is there anyone signed up to speak for or against this? Thank you very much. Okay. We will double check with the sign-in sheet when it comes in, but if there is no one else to, or if there is no one to speak on this. Mr. Rocco, is there anything you'd like to add?
I do not, just hopefully you look at the pictures and see that there's a appropriate amount of buffer around and screening, obviously by the fence row that goes all along the rear of all those properties.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate it. We do have the sign-in sheet in hand, and there is no one signed up to speak to this. Board members? I think it's a pretty straightforward request.
Well, of course it's straightforward because there's nothing else that can be done right now, other than they've gone to a lot of effort and have spent a lot of money to get this thing resolved. But how much time and effort have they spent to go find this guy and expose him to the public? He's out there preying on other people just like he did this gentleman. What kind of effort was made? These kind of people need to have their licenses revoked. You need to go down that path also. All these expenses should have been paid for from that contractor. If he did such a great job and did everything just right, then he's in business. And he knows what he's doing, and he's going to do all this again and isn't paying for either fees or permits or licensing or insurance. And there's an effort, not much of an effort was made to get this guy responsible for what he did. Paying the bill in full, that resolved all that. He's moved on.
Understood. I have actually driven around the community looking for the type of truck that he was, and building decks, because usually that's going to happen in this same neighborhood when these houses are constructed on these smaller lots. So I did make that effort to see, and I would have turned him into the contractor's licensing board.
Well, in terms of that, and as the criteria that we're looking at, for number 2, arises from special conditions or attributes which pertain to the property for which a variance sought were not created by the person seeking the variance. First is the shape of the lot and them being in compliance with their, have to have a certain size front yard. The lot shape is irregular, and as Keith just mentioned, it kind of sounds like this contractor may have preyed on this individual. I mean, he expected that everything was in order. It is existing. Do you know how long ago it was built?
It was built in the spring.
Okay. There was no public comment attached to this. So, I mean, to me, it will not adversely affect the public health, safety, or welfare or the rights of the adjacent property owner. Having to have the gentleman essentially rip it off the back of his house and build something smaller when being his age, he may absolutely need the space. I think that would eliminate an unnecessary hardship and permit a reasonable use of the land. And in my opinion, the intent of the zoning and land development ordinance is observed. That's just my thoughts on it, and I
agree.
anything else that anyone would like to add? Do I have a motion to approve agenda item number 4, file number 26-15-ZV? It's a variance from Appendix A to reduce the side setback from 12 feet to 10 feet and the rear setback from 20 feet to 16 feet for a 10 by 30 covered porch. The applicant is Paul Rocco of PJ Rocco Consulting. It's owned by Charles and Joe Turnell. It's in Magnolia Springs subdivision, lot 232 at 43 Ainsley Way. It's 0.17 acres in the residential growth district with the parcel ID noted in the agenda and with the applicant bound by their testimony.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Your motion carried.
Abstain.
If you're going to abstain,
I don't want to vote.
what reason is it? That's fine. You can abstain, but you do have to give a reason as to why you're abstaining.
Well, because more could have been done to find this contractor and have this situation resolved properly. I don't mean tore down and built right, but all these expenses that this guy went through should have been paid for by the contractor. And if he's went to all this money to have this thing resolved, he could have went to the same amount of money and had this guy exposed. So I don't think it was handled proper at all.
Okay, thank you. So it's 3 in favor, 1 abstention, and generally, do you have what you need for the minutes? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next will be agenda item number 1, and actually for the record, agenda item number 3, which is an administrative appeal for the county administrator, just for the record, that is postponed. That will not happen at today's meeting. That'll be in July. So if there is anyone here for that, just know that it's not going to happen today. Next up is agenda item number 1. It's file number 26-5-ZV. This is rescheduled from January. It's a variance from section 9.7 to reduce the front setbacks from 20 feet to 18 feet and reduce the side setback from 8 feet to 6 feet for a proposed dwelling unit. Randy Rivera is the owner. It's Harper's Ferry campsites, lots 59, 60, and 61. It's a vacant parcel northeast from 109 Old Deer Run in Harper's Ferry. The parcel ID is noted in the agenda, just under half an acre in the rural zoning district. And Miss, if you would like to introduce yourself for the record.
Yes, everyone, the board, gentlemen, ladies, and everyone who's listening. My name is Randy Rivera. I am the owner of the property out in Harper's Ferry. It is a,
Hold on for 1 minute. Randy Rivera, nice to meet you.
yes, sir.
We'll get to you in just a second. We're
I
gonna
have
first.
one comment.
Yes, sir.
This was postponed from January when the county website was hacked. And notices went out to all applicants on that meeting date that they didn't need to show up. So that is why it's taken so long to get here. And just wanted to put that on the record.
Whenever you're ready, sir, if we could have the staff report.
Thank you. So this lot was created in October of 1978, which was prior to zoning. Therefore, the required setbacks are 20 feet front, 8 feet side, and 12 feet rear. And the applicant is requesting a variance from section 9.7 to reduce the front setback from 20 to 18 and the side from 8 to 6 for a proposed structure. The intent is for the applicant to start off with a storage unit or storage structure. But at some point, he wishes to convert that to a dwelling unit. The side setback for an accessory structure in this case would be 6 feet, but once it's converted into a dwelling, that required setback is 8 feet. I'm
Thank
done.
you, sir. And thank you, sir. If you want to go ahead and state your case.
Okay, so board members, ladies and gentlemen. So initially this lot was purchased back in October with me being the property owner during, so when I purchased and acquired this lot, I purchased it knowing that it's a small lot. What I did not know is the lot's condition and where the entry points would be. So when I looked and I asked for entry points, I only got one. And that entry point would be towards the top, toward the bottom side. It's the curvature entry point on the 111-foot side to the 151-foot side. I had this lot surveyed, checked out, and I have to say it's only a very small lot, about 0.39 acres. I don't have much space, maybe 10,000 square feet for a septic. It gives me 7,000 square feet left. If we add all the setbacks, that would bring me down to 4,000, and I only have enough room for not even a road. So with these setbacks applied, I would have more advantages, and that advantages would then increase the usability of the lot in itself. the lot itself is it's very hard. Like even maneuverability in it is pretty tough. Like I've had tried many ways to make the maneuverability easier, but the setbacks just set me back, if that makes sense. It creates a hardship, a very, very, very strong hardship to where it takes more time to actually clear the land and develop the lot than it does to actually make the lot usable. So with the setbacks being at 6 feet, I'm able to provide more usability as stated within the terms and within the ordinance. And being within good faith of the ordinance, I'd be able to then have a dwelling unit in the back of the lot as presented in the photos. And that in that photo, the survey wasn't done until March. So that this photo may be a little outdated, but it's the same information. The building will still go on the 99-foot side in the back end. My building is a 25 by 55. So if it's a 25 by 55, I'm going to have the septic field in front of it. And it's going to be tough because if I have to apply the setback on that rear, it would create no room for the septic field. So I would be a total, it would be a total waste, and that lot would be unbuildable without the setback. It would be a much smaller dwelling, and this is my first lot, to be honest. This is my first time entering Jefferson County in West Virginia, and West Virginia in itself. And as a person in the military, I'm just trying to build my home and settle down. So having this variance helps me establish my family. It creates my first home and my first lot. So just out of honesty, that's my sentimental point of view, but the professional point of view and standpoint, just by looking at all disadvantages I've been given and just how this lot is since the 1960s, as mentioned before, this variance would alleviate much hardship for me.
Thank you. Is there any questions for the applicant?
No.
You did, in the staff report, it was mentioned that you're going to begin using it as storage until you build it out, the building that you're putting up.
Yes, so because this has been some quite time and we've discovered like just out of this week since I'm here, because I'm here on military leave, I've looked at the lot. We've discovered shale in certain parts. The most buildable location is where it is on these plans. However, since I was not able to actually build the storage yet because of all the challenges that we've endured with just the septic itself, where I'm holding back the building until the septic test is done, which is being conducted as of right now, to ensure that this lot is completely buildable. And that way, the storage that I currently have, it's just a storage shed. It was going to be a 25 by 55, but due to the scams, and, back in January, and then me being deployed out in Germany, I wasn't able to be here to set that move going forward because I was activated. So I'm coming here on this variance meeting to state my case. Hope that when I do get this moving forward and this project finally moving forward, I can finally alleviate what I've seen on the ground.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Elliot, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, just so I understand correctly, this is a vacant lot basically that was purchased, and I mean, in a summary, you're just trying to build your home on it, and then obviously you have some of the issues that you've been going through. So I just wanted to clarify because I'm just trying to look at some of the
Yeah, it's not clear.
uh, So, like, is this in a neighborhood though, too? Like this trail, this Skyhawk Trail, is that a neighborhood or subdivision? Or,
Yes. Yes, it
okay.
is.
And
It's
then
a
you're
neighborhood.
asking, you're saying that's not very, it would be difficult for you to get a driveway off of that?
Yes, the pole had to be moved at the time, but the electric company dropped the ball.
Okay.
They didn't move the pole in time, and that caused even more delay on the project itself. So there was just delays upon challenges upon delays, and it's also I believe it's a county-owned road, if I may say, because that's what I was told by the residents and neighbors.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah, I don't have
I
any other
drive by this
questions right
site,
now.
every time I leave my house. And, there is no access off of Keys Gap. There's access off a cul-de-sac, which is a separate road. Um, this lot, just by driving by, you can see the difficulties that they've gone through. In fact, I did see the, power company there just the other day. So they were moving the pole then. Um,
And I
yeah,
again apologize
I've
real
seen your
quick.
pain.
Yes, it is. It is extremely painful. I have a lot of doubts that has been grown since the day that I've started this development. But I'm a fighter, and in the military, we're taught to never give up. So
I have no problem with 2 feet.
Okay.
I have a question.
yes, sir.
So if you can't, this little drawing we're looking at here on page 2 of 3,
Yes, sir.
that rectangle shaped drawing, what is that? Is that a house? Is it a storage shed? Is it a garage? What are you proposing to be
So
built right
I
there?
have the drawings, the actual drawings in my handy. I'm not able to print them, but I can pass them to you should you would like to admit them for the record.
No, I just want to know what it is we're looking at right here.
Okay.
On this drawing.
Oh,
Is that the
it was
25 by 50-foot
E-
house?
it was a 25 by 55. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yes, it is. It is a 25 by 55 that would be proposed in this variance to support it. Yes.
And it's your contention that if you can't move it 2 feet left and 2 feet forward, it can't be built.
Because of the septic that has to go, there has to be a 10-foot from the septic, and the septic's 100 by 100, and it could be even bigger. It could be 120 by 80. It could be 140 by 60, because you have to be 10 feet from the road. And if the road is built alongside the top edge and you're at a minimum 10 feet for that road, then you have to be another 10 feet, and that's already a 20-foot setback on the sides, because on that top side for the road. So then you're disadvantaged almost irreparably, because that would bring my 99 to a 79. And then if that side setback, that would bring it down to a 60. You see how I get condensed even further? Yes,
Have you had a perk test done?
it's getting done today.
It's getting done today.
Yeah, like it's like processing. So so right now, it's on the percolation stage, checking the depths and how fast. The first hole dropped from 6 inches to 0 in 2 hours. So that's a very good sign. 3 holes have to be readjusted
Right.
so we can get the results.
Yeah, it's
Hey.
got a perk to be a buildable lot anyways, so that's got, if it doesn't perk,
Right.
he's got bigger problems. Because he bought a lot that was sold to him as a buildable lot, and it's not. So. this-
And
And this is also, I'm sorry to interrupt, but this is also part of the big challenge too, which is what I'm putting my 5-meter shot group on to ensure that it does meet the requirements for the health department. So I'm working very closely to get this perk done, and that's my goal.
Yeah, that's separate from us. so.
And with leave of the board here, and a question for staff. If he were to just bring this in as an accessory structure and build it out later, if he called this an accessory structure, he wouldn't need this variance. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So, I mean, one, I'll say I do appreciate you wanting to do this the right way. Is there any further questions for the applicant? Is there anybody that would like to speak either for or against this that signed up? That's you that signed in here, Randy Rivera?
That is
from
me.
Regal
Yes, sir.
Street? Okay. All right. Well, we got you already then.
Are you for it or against it?
I'm for it, of course. I'm just trying to get this right.
No problem.
Okay. We have no one else signed up, so we will close the public hearing. Yeah, so board members, I didn't hear any evidence that the public health, safety, or welfare or the rights of the adjacent property owners would be adversely affected. It's a non-conforming lot. The use is actually what's going to be what determines the setbacks. I mean, he's intending to begin it as an accessory structure. You know, I do applaud him for coming in and do it the right way from the jump. It's a non-conforming lot, and it sounds like a health concern to make this, you know, to have ample room for the septic. I don't think any of that's his fault. In my opinion, it would eliminate an unnecessary hardship and permit a reasonable use of the land. And I didn't hear any evidence that that it is not within the intent of the zoning and land development ordinance to be observed. Those are just my thoughts on there.
Good.
Do I have a motion to approve agenda item number 1, file number 26-5-ZV, a variance from section 9.7 to reduce the front setbacks from 20 feet to 18 feet and to reduce the side setback from 8 feet to 6 feet for a proposed dwelling unit? Parcel is owned by Randy Rivera. It's Harper's Ferry campsites, lots 59, 60, and 61. It's a vacant parcel northeast from 109 Deer Run and Harper's Ferry. Parcel ID is noted in the agenda. It's just under a half an acre in the rural zoning district with the stipulation that the applicant is bound by their testimony.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye.
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 Your motion carries. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen.
Did I hear Michaela?
Yes, I'm here.
Welcome.
What time did you show up?
At the beginning of this one.
Okay.
Okay. Last, we will have agenda item number 2. It's file number 26-3-CUP and 23-13-ZV and 26-14-ZV. The first request is for a conditional use permit to operate a construction company. The proposal consists of a 30-foot by 60-foot building plus parking and equipment storage area. There will be no on-site customer visits and no signs are proposed. Second request is from Appendix B in Section 4.6 to reduce the setback and distance requirements for the proposed project. The third request is a variance from Appendix B in Section 4.11 to reduce the landscape and buffer requirements for the proposed project. The applicant is Mark Roper, and he is the property owner. It's a vacant lot on Baylor Street in Charlestown. The parcel ID is noted in the agenda. It's a little over 1/4 acre in the residential growth district. And if we may have the applicant, please.
We can do it later.
Yeah, okay.
Hello, my name is Seth Rivard. I'm representing Mark Roper on this project, and we'll go through the presentation on these items. So what I think is that your desk is something that looks like this. Just want to go through this to be orderly.
Yes, for the record, we do not accept anything at this time.
Sure.
However, we've been informed that you want to present a PowerPoint and we don't have that ability.
Correct.
So we will use this as your PowerPoint
Sure.
presentation and we'll give it back to you when
Sure.
you're done.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And just to note that everything in here is basically a summarization of what was submitted in by the applicant.
Correct.
Okay.
So-
Well, hold on one moment. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. If we may have the staff report, please, sir.
I'm sorry.
And if you want to go ahead and do the conditional use and then the two requests, that'd be great.
Sure. Thank you. So this lot is zoned residential growth. And the proposed use, according to Appendix C of the zoning ordinance, is a contractor with outdoor storage. This is a conditional use in the residential growth district. And as stated prior, the applicant wishes to construct a 30 by 60 foot building for storage of materials with some outdoor storage as well. I believe the application states the largest of which would be a dump truck, skid steer, and backhoe. There would be no employees working continuously on site. The hours of operation where employees would report to the site would be between 7:30 a.m. and 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, and limited Saturdays from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Traffic impact, according to the applicant's application, is expected to be minimal, as there will be no sales or customers to the site. Subject parcel is comprised of just over about a third of an acre. It is known as Lot 7 and 8 in Baylor's Addition. It was created in 1952. It should be stated or noted, there's no built streets to the property. There is a 35-foot wide platted paper street to the east and a 20-foot wide platted paper street to the south. Though in a predominantly residential neighborhood, there are no residential lots directly adjacent to the property. Not adjacent, but just to the north of the property are a natural gas filling station and the railroad. The lots with existing homes to the south of the 20-foot wide platted street are located within the corporate limits of Charlestown. There is one lot to the east of the 35-foot wide platted street, also in the county and zoned residential growth. So to go through the standards to be considered for reviewing a CUP application, the proposed use is compatible with the goals of the adopted comprehensive plan. Subject parcel is shown as suburban residential on the envisioned Jefferson 2045 Comprehensive Plan Future Land Use Guide. The property is located outside of the county's identified growth areas. The suburban residential classification identifies higher intensity residential developments. The Envision 45 plan also supports allowing commercial uses in the residential growth district to process via conditional use process. And a central theme throughout the plan is to support a conditional use process that allows for non-residential uses which are compatible in scale and intensity with the suburban environment. Pursuant to Appendix C of the zoning ordinance, the land use designation contractor with outdoor storage is listed as an appropriate commercial land use to process via the conditional use process. Number two, the proposed use is compatible in intensity and scale with the existing and potential land uses on the adjoining and confronting properties, and poses no threat to public health, safety, and welfare. The applicant has addressed this criterion on page 5 of his application. Again, though primarily residential, the area also consists of commercial, transportation, and undeveloped land conditions. The applicant is proposing to establish a modest contractor with outdoor storage business on the subject property. Again, including the 30 by 60 foot building and the outdoor storage area. There'll be no continuous on-site employees other than the property owner, and no customers will be visiting the site. Number three, the proposed site development shall be such that the use will not hinder nor discourage the appropriate development and use of adjacent land and buildings. The applicant has addressed this criterion on page 6 of their application. The applicant states that the building and outdoor storage area will be oriented to the north of the property, so to be adjacent to the natural gas filling station and railroad. There will also be a 6-foot solid board fence and site buffering around the perimeter of the property. The perimeter buffering will consist also of pine trees planted every 10 feet with a minimum height of 4 feet at planting. Number 4, neighborhood character and surrounding property value shall be safeguarded by requiring implementation of the landscaping buffer requirements found in Appendix B and Section 4.11 of the ordinance. The applicant acknowledges this on page 11 of the application. Now, as part of this request, there will also be some variance requests, 5 in fact. 1, to reduce the rear building setback from 25 feet to 15 feet. A reduction in the required front parking and drive aisle setback of 15 feet to 5 feet. Reduction in the required site distance requirement of 75 feet to 5 feet. Reduction in the required buffer of 10 feet to 5 feet. And reduction in the required 6-foot tall pines at the time of planting to 4 feet. Number 5, commercial industrial uses shall be in conformance with Section 8.9 of the ordinance. The applicant acknowledges this criterion on page 6 of the application and shall comply with this report with this standard. Section 8.9 regulates noise, odor, smoke, ambient air quality, vibration, glare, and heat, toxic matter, and fire hazards related to commercial and industrial land uses. Numbers 6 and 7 are not applicable. This is not in the rural zoning district, and there are no historic landmark class 2, 1 or 2 on site. And as far as number 8, any signage, the applicant does not propose any signage. Thank you.
Thank you. If you don't mind, go ahead with the requests.
For the variances?
Yes, please.
Sure. I won't go through the whole, we know about the lot being a little over a third of an acre, the 30 by 60 contractor storage. Again, the applicant is requesting the following variances. Appendix B, A reduction in the required rear building setback of 25 feet to 15 feet. And number 2 of that request, a reduction in the required front parking and drive aisle setback of 15 feet to 5 feet. A variance from section 4.6B, which is a 75-foot site distance requirement with any residential lot. And this is being requested to be reduced to 5 feet. Section 4.11E, a reduction in the required 10-foot screen buffer to a 5-foot screen buffer. And secondly, a reduction in the required height of vegetative buffer at the time of planting from 6 feet to 4 feet. Thank you.
Hey, thank you, sir. I appreciate it. All right, sir, if you want to go ahead.
Certainly.
Actually,
For the record,
I'm sorry,
Sorry.
1 second. Is there any questions for staff?
I have one. Regarding the site distance requirement from 75 to 5, that seems quite a bit to me. Have you seen that before?
I mean, no, not in the short time I've been here. I've not seen that, no.
Okay, I'm used to seeing, 2 feet, 10 feet, something small like that.
Sure.
Just, it stuck out to me. Didn't know if there was any precedent on that.
Yeah, I can't speak to that.
Okay.
What site distance are they looking? Because it's not a setback. Like, are we talking about the frontage of the?
So the 75-foot site distance requirement is for any commercial or industrial use from a lot that has a residence on it, or a church, or a school, or an institution of health, adult health care.
Okay. Okay, thank you, sir. Any other questions for staff? All right, sir.
Certainly. So as you described, this is really just what is in lieu of a PowerPoint and a summary of the application that was submitted to you for that. For the record, my name is Seth Ravad. I'm representing Mark Roper on this requested application. What I provided on the cover sheet was also in the application, but I think the whole nature of this site really is about the makeup of the property and the location which it finds itself and what the applicant is proposing to do, which I think will help answer some questions you had of staff. So you've already had the opportunity to look at where the proposed building is on this. I'm not going to be too redundant, but really there are the two paper streets in this location. And when I mean paper streets, I mean they have some trees and brush growing them and everything else. They're not accessible. I mean, the street functionally ends at the applicant's corner of the applicant's property there. That's how the one house in the county that was described gets access to their property. But the critical thing here is the applicant is proposing a 6-foot fence with tree planting every 10 feet around the property. And that will be discussed more in the variance section, so I don't want to belabor that. So I provide a picture of the fence and the proposed potential building there. So the current features of the property, I've sort of gone through that. I've jumped to page 2. As staff has stated, one of them is 35 feet wide and one is 20 feet. The proposed use is a limited nature in the sense it's going to be fairly lowly intensity for the property owner. The contractor's yard will serve a small scale operation for base of the properties of the business owner's property. It really will be for securing and organizing equipment, tools, property, and material custom typically associated with a contractor's yard. As noted, no sign will be located on this property or out at the road right away because this is not a retail and nature property. There's not customers coming to this site or even clients coming to the property. The proposed improvements have been noted by staff and myself on the cover. Staffing and people on the site. There might be a few employees who report to this site and then go off to jobs, but oftentimes many of his employees report directly to the jobs because he already has supplies sitting there for them as well. Staff has described the hours of operation essentially when employees would come and go. The owner would be there mainly 7 days a week in some capacity. And then there would be a couple administrative staff, typically Monday through Friday. I've stated what it's not. It's not a general commercial destination, and it's not an operation of high intensity uses, and clients are not coming there for general contracting services. One of the big things, this will comply with section 8.9 of the zoning ordinance, and I think this is kind of critical when you talk about a contractor's yard. There's not going to be noise, odors, smoke, ambient air violations, vibration, glare, heat, toxic matter, fire hazards, and then I have a bullet point for nothing. So I think it's important to understand the owner's business, to understand this operation. The owner has quite a few rentals, and so he has some things customarily associated with his rental business that he needs to store on site. Miscellaneous supplies, extra things he buys as things wear out on properties that you would typically have. He has a general contracting business, but over the years that has downscaled extensively, and he's even divested quite a bit of his equipment over the years. And so he's down to a limited handful of pieces of equipment. And that's really part of this operation, which is proposed here. But again, a lot of that's going to be offsite activities where his employees meet him off those sites and they do that work offsite. And then the other thing he does is home building. He has a number of lots that he continues to build on, but all that home building supply is directly deposited to the lots where the building is at. It's not brought to this site and then carted off to those building locations. So collectively, it's a fairly light activity in that regard. It's going to jump to page 3. You're clearly required to answer 3 questions. How is this compatible with the comprehensive plan? Comp plan talks about support for economic development, local jobs, which he hires local people in the vicinity. I talked about the light intensity uses. We've talked about the landscaping and pine trees planted every 10 feet. The residential growth allows for a contractor's yard. There's clearly some indication based on the zoning ordinance and comp plan that can be a permissible use. The surrounding property, again, it's critical, and we'll probably talk about it more in the variances, but those 2 paper streets create an additional distance and buffer requirements from where residential homes are now. The 2 directing adjacent lots are sort of in a triangle to the north and west. Those are functionally landlocked lots because in order to build on those lots, you'd have to make some level of improvement of a road. They don't have utilities to them. And you can't really just drive on them and get to the lots because of the trees and brush in them. And any jurisdiction, whether it be the county or the city, is going to require you to install some paved street to those lots. And as far as anybody knows of recent memory, recent meaning like 70 years, there's been no structures on those lots. As sort of talking about the surrounding property and staff discussed, this is not exclusively a residential neighborhood. I mean, in the back corner where he's deliberately locating the building is towards the natural gas filling station and the railroad tracks where the intensity is a little bit different over there. I will not read the excerpts from the comp plan. Those are there for your reference, but you have those, but it does talk about keeping a variety of talents and skills here, business to expand, and those sorts of things. Then the second one is how is it compatible with the intensity scale, surrounding areas? How will the applicant mitigate some of these potential threats to public health, safety, and welfare? I've described to you in detail, and so has staff, the nature of this mixed area from residential to one aspect to a railroad commercial corridor with a industrial gas filling station on that property. First of all, this is only going to be used by property owner for, really limited business services. Rentals aren't going to be on the property. His construction new homes aren't on this property, and some limited general contracting. There will not be anything built or constructed on this site. Everything is off-site. It's critical that this, is fenced and pine trees around the entire distance. I've addressed all these things. Well, he will install downward lighting so there's no glare on the adjacent property owners. Still in italics, that basically do these characteristics. The proposed use is compatible with both the existing and nearby uses, surrounding properties, and will further protect the public health, safety, and welfare based on the proposed site layout and operational standards. The third one is describe how the proposed site development will be designed in such that the use will not hinder or discourage appropriate development of adjacent properties. I've discussed really ad nauseum sort of the site and surrounding elements, but I do think the fact that there's a fence, the landscaping on all 4 sides, there's going to be an enclosed building where some things will be stored and out of sight, really sort of makes this less of a typical contractor yard than you might typically think about. Talked about how the buildings are oriented towards the railroad corridor. And italics, it's modest in scale, it's physically contained, not open to public, will not create the types of impacts that will impair the adjacent properties or discourage reasonable use. This use can coexist with the other one. So that's the CUP. I'd like to take the variances if I could, even though those are separate agenda item, because everything builds upon one another.
Go ahead.
Sure. Staff's outlined sort of these 4, right on this cover sheet of the next document. The only thing that I really want to hit is really sort of the parking drive aisle setbacks and the distance, at least on this cover sheet, is that in a couple of directions that we're looking for relief from down to the 5 feet, because we have a paper street in both directions, there is a functional separation of parking and drive aisle from a non-street, which really is going to be the crux of it, is that you're providing parking drive aisle setbacks from a street that doesn't exist functionally. And then the distance requirements, I think you had very good questions about that 75 feet and being reduced extensively to 5 feet. But I think it's important to remember that 75 is just open space. With proposing a fence and some buffering, you actually have a physical block. So, there has been a number of waivers for a reduction of landscaping over the years at the county, which basically allows you to see into the site, even though you meet the 75 feet, right? So, sure, even if we could meet the 75 feet, we wouldn't have to put as much landscaping in place. And so in lieu of asking for quite a reduction, we're putting landscaping on all 4 sides. While I'm on this point, I'm going to kind of usurp where we'll end up, is that we're only required to put buffering on 2 sides, which is the north and the west. On the paper streets, we could plant just street trees 1 every 50 feet. But understanding the nature of this use and the residential properties adjacent to it, the applicant thought it would be reasonable and fair and try and be a little bit compatible with the neighborhood as a transition from industrial railroad, industrial filling tank to residential, to provide buffering on all 4 sides with the landscaping all the way around. So that's sort of the give and take approach of this. So I want to kind of hit that point of, 75 feet is great on some level, but you still can see the use. That really doesn't block the visual appearance. And regarding the buffer yard, we're only asking for that to be cut in half and the required trees to go down 2 feet. So we're going to meet really the buffering standard of a fence plus the pine trees every 10 feet. We're just asking for them to be reduced by 2 feet, which in a couple years, that'll alleviate itself because they will grow to that additional couple feet. But because he has somebody to plant, he's asking for relief. On page 2 is the unique site features. I think we've discussed that quite significantly as well. I've kind of gone to the reason why the distance requirement was reduced. So that kind of drops us to page 3. So really, there's 4 criteria you've got to go for, the building setbacks, parking aisle, and distance. I'm going to try and summarize them under each of the 4. So for the distance requirement, not only are we putting in the fence and the landscaping, as I talked about, that actually creates a buffer towards the really most important direction, which is the residential homes that face Summit Point and then the one adjacent. They actually have functionally about a 40-foot separation in one direction because of that paper street, and then a 25 in the other direction. So it's really not down to just 5 feet to the places where there are residential uses. And so we figure, based on all those things that, it will not impact the health, safety, and welfare adjacent residences in that regard. The building setback, we're asking for that reduction to put the building closer to the more intensive uses of the railroad and gas filling station and away from the residential. There's going to be no windows to that back, so it sort of really acts as a second buffer and wall anyway to the rear. So they feel like there's going to be no hardship to the public health, safety, and welfare there. The driving parking setback aisles, essentially, yes, those are typically designed so that they're set back far enough from a road that you have some amount of landscaping between the road and the parking lot for visual improvement and all those sort of things. But since we have no road, I'm not sure what we're setting back from, and they're just going to put up a fence and wall in front of that area anyway. So we don't think we'll harm the public health, safety, and welfare. The second criteria that you have to meet is rise from special conditions. The distance, if we laid this over the lot, it actually overlapped the distance requirement. So we'd kind of have a problem with that. The building setback, we're trying to get the building further away from the residents and the surrounding area. It makes better use of the site as well. And it's a limited lot size. Building drive aisle setback, again, it goes with the fact that there's no road to really be setting back from. So that's criteria 2, unreasonable, unnecessary hardship, permit reasonable use of land. I combine all 3 of these elements under sort of 3 bullet points. It's a unique condition of the site. where it's located, those sort of things. The strict standards would sort of create a difficulty of use of this land. But more importantly, it's because of site requirements and the fact of what the applicant is proposing in lieu of some of these other things. Again, the fence, the screening, and being in compliance with the section of ordinance that deals with noise and glare and all those sort of things. The setback allows additional separation from the property line, so that 25 to 15 rear setback. The purpose to have adequate light, air, and all those sort of things, and attacking a fire, if there ever was one, you could still get back around there. So we think we meet the unnecessary hardship and be able to use reasonable use of land. And then finally, substantial justice and the intent. The purpose of any ordinance, and going back to the history of zoning, is, separation of uses so you don't have overcrowding. I think we're meeting that. We're not overshadowing properties. We're not building a big, tall structure. We're not building tall townhomes, those sort of things. We provided some things to offset any of the things we're requesting reduction for that I've already described. So I won't go into that. The buffer, you have already heard, from staff and myself, what is required and what we're providing. We think that based on the modest relief, I'm not going to go through this in detail, but, based on the modest relief, I don't think we're impacting the health, public safety, welfare of the residents. The buffering is required. We're essentially meeting it without any meaningful reduction of the material. We're going to even meet more material than required in terms of the planning and the fencing. So we're only asking for the to go from 10 feet to 5 feet, and the planning height from 6 feet to 4 feet. So I don't think that's really going to impact the adjacent residents and their health, life, safety, and welfare. I've already discussed the special attributes of this property where it matters most. There's already a physical distance separation, plus we're providing this fencing and landscaping. The unnecessary hardship sort of been described as well. There's no sense of providing additional space. That's really not going to help them. What really helps them is a fence and landscaping that will grow into a continuous green evergreens hedge, essentially, and then substantial justice and the intent done. So I think the intent is that we're protecting the adjacent residents from any of these activities that will be happening on the site. They won't be able to see into it. And again, we basically provided an evergreen hedge around the entire property when it grows together. And so, we specifically chose evergreens for that purpose versus like trees that are deciduous, meaning they have leaves and fall off in the winter, and then you see things. So that's collectively the applicant's presentation. I know it's taken a lot, but we asked for a lot of things, but it's the composition of the site. So I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for the applicant?
No, that was very detailed. Thank you.
How long has your client owned the property?
How long have you owned the property?
50 plus years.
50 plus years.
If you don't mind, sir, if you don't mind coming up, just state your name for the record. I'm probably gonna have some questions for you.
It used to be 2 apartment buildings there that were my dad's. I tore them down several years ago. There were 2 apartment buildings, probably 16 units, 2 apartment buildings with 16 tenants or maybe 20 tenants at the time. The properties, it's it's down in like of a hole. I mean, it's not a good place for a residential building because it's, backs up the cable oil company with all the big tanks and stuff of that nature. It's up against, it's a railroad depot there or track there where trains come in and out. It's just a place where I can, keep my mowers for my rental business, stuff like that. I mean, I don't really do too much of excavating anymore. I keep a skid loader around for snow removal. I'm just trying to, I'm on a bigger site over on 11065 Middleway Pike, and I've just downsized a lot. It's just a place where I can, do my paperwork or keep my mowers and stuff of that nature to keep up to my rental property. I really don't do any trucking or do any hauling or I don't do construction for people anymore. It's just my own self business. I don't really I do build homes, but that stuff is done on a totally different level. And like I say, I've talked to the adjacent property owners and, they like to sell the lots that they have and, they're really not too buildable. A couple of lots don't even have access to it. And it's just in a place where it would be kind of hard to do residential. And then of course that would entail more traffic in and out. And, it's just trying to make use of the property. There's nothing else really you can do it. I've tried to sell the property. No interested parties have ever, said, hey, we're interested or whatever the case may be. So, I mean, once I tore the apartment buildings down, it's been sitting vacant for all these years, for a few years, maybe 8 or 10 years. I have worked out, there's no utilities, there's no water and sewer there, but I have let the C-Tub, I gave them an easement to bring water and sewer over to that area so they want to upgrade the water and sewer on Summer Point Road. So they will bring me, water water and sewer if I need it, but, I don't anticipate, a whole lot going on there.
Thank you, sir. Elliot or Michaela, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I do not. That was a very thorough presentation. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree. I don't have any questions.
Since you are up here, sir, we've seen you before with the property you just mentioned, for the Middleway Pike, where you're planning on putting the retail space and the gym and things like that. Is that where your equipment's parked at now?
Yes, I have a few pieces there now. I've gotten rid of mostly all of it. Most of it's my guy's work van and then my pickup trucks and trailer for my zero turn mowers. I've gotten rid of most all of my large equipment.
So essentially, what you're looking to park here, you got sitting across the street right now, legally, of course.
Maybe a couple pieces, but most of it's going to go when that time comes. When I do that project up there, most of it's going to go. It's just, like I say,
Okay,
it's a lot, and it is for sale. Some of my equipment's for sale. It'll be my pickup trucks, the truck I drive, my work van. That's basically it. Maybe a dump trailer.
Okay, yeah, I mean, do you plan on running a shop or anything out of there?
No, I don't do anything like that.
Okay.
You don't do that now even.
I don't even do it now. No, I don't have a shop. I don't do any mechanic work or work on any vehicles there or anything. That's all private sourced out. I don't do any.
And he doesn't even do any like pre-cutting or other thing for
I
the
don't
general
do any.
contracting. All that's done off site.
Yeah, I don't do any of that either.
Okay, so essentially you're doing something with the property on the main road. You need somewhere to put this and this is further off the road than,
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
all right. Is there any other questions for the applicant? Okay, gentlemen, there is a couple of people signed up for this, so if you guys want to have a seat and then we'll call you back when it's time.
I'd like to give the PowerPoint back, so it's not part of the record.
If you don't mind, we'll wait until after we deliberate, but after we rule, we will have Jenna. Generally,
I'm going to
do-
give mine back because only his presentation should count. We should not be able to go back and reference this. It would be a submission to us where we're making our judgment on.
What do you think of that, Mr. Cochran?
Like to see a copy of it.
We can only make our judgments on what was submitted at the time of the application.
Yeah, hold on a second. We'll defer this to legal counsel.
It's my understanding that you have a policy that you are not taking additional information at the hearing other than testimony, I guess. So if that is your policy, then I would assume that you would follow it. I would note that in my past experience with boards, they have allowed submissions, but if your policy is not to, then that's your policy.
Okay. Then, yeah, if you don't mind, if you would take the summaries of the submitted material to Jenna Lee, we'll just take care of that now. Okay, first,
It'll go back to the applicant. It's not part of the.
first signed up, we have a Michael Tolbert.
Question.
Come up and introduce yourself first, if you would.
Mike.
Sort of try to keep it around 3 minutes. Just speak to either why you're for or against this.
Okay, thank you. Ask a question. Can I provide, you seem to be talking about whether the applicant can provide documentation and PowerPoints. Is the public to pro or con allowed to submit information?
It has to be submitted prior to be part of the public record.
Okay, that's only
Right.
fair.
If you submitted an email to Jenna Lee beforehand,
Uh-huh.
it would be in here.
It would be.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. Mike Tolbert, 858 West Washington Street, Charlestown. Now we go with Paul Harvey, the other side of the story. This property that the applicants requested has a long and very sad history to it. I would ask that first you deny it and the 2 or 3 request variances, setbacks, and or allow for continuance. I think this issue has not been well told in the rest of the community. And I believe further meetings, you will have quite a few people from the community that will come up and give testimony, particularly Griffith Oil Company, which I don't know if they were contacted. It is just 2 things. If you are a Boy Scout, you understand that the only tree that will burn even when it's completely wet is pine. And the Griffith Energy Services is not a natural gas filling station. It has 6 huge heating oil tanks. If you get that up above 140, you start having blowtorch and explosion issues. Putting this thing that close to that where there is no, egress. In other words, if there's ever a fire, because there's no fire hydrants in that area, there ever is a fire, getting fire units into that area, they will not be able, if there's a problem, to get out. And I think y'all have to understand that. And I would hope that you do then do a continuance, do a little more, allow us to put some of the information into the public record. I have a 22-point PowerPoint presentation along with my 3 pages I'd like to submit with some documentation. This is, by the way, I brought my voter registration card, my ambulance form, my tax thing. I'm a resident of the city of Charlestown, but I'm also a resident to the county of Jefferson. I think part of the problem here is that many people do not understand that there is a large portion of the western end of Charlestown that is not in Charlestown. That area that runs basically along the Norfolk Southern thing that is in the county. Thus, you have the intersection of city and county, and where you are dealing with basically comprehensive plan for the county. There is also in almost every parcel that touches this parcel is a city of Charlestown parcel. And so you have the comprehensive plan, historical plans, and other things that need to be put into play to understand those. Also, as I said, putting up pine trees, and we'll talk about the lot if you did a continuance, but putting up pine trees, those things go up. You're right next to the heating oil tanks, get it above 140, and you're going to have a problem. The other issue is Norfolk Southern. They run 15 trains a day through there. Many of them are what is known in the lingo, the industry lingo, as bomb trains. You've had trains that have decoupled right in front of that oil company at the Martin Luther King intersection or railway crossing.
Sir, if you could, why would this building or this suggested plan?
Good, thank you. there, I kind of had expected to give you a 3-pager that walked all 8 of the conditions and said why. In terms of the comprehensive plan, again, you have to discuss this in terms of also the Charlestown comprehensive plan. How does the county comprehensive plan deal with properties that also touch the Charlestown municipalities? And that's what I'd like to talk about. Further, the things that are going to be moved from one area, from one property over on off Martin Luther King to this, the fact that that road is a completely owned, though terribly managed city of Charlestown road, and all the things would come in and go off of that road, Baylor Street. And these, what we keep talking about, ghost or hidden alleys or paper things, they will impact residents of the city of Charlestown. You can talk about this in terms of the county of Jefferson, but they will also impact the same people who are also county residents who live in Charlestown, and the children that walk up those streets and walk up those paper alleys. And so there's a safety issue. There is what's going to be built. There is what is on that land. There is all kinds of other issues. And so I would ask for a continuance so that we can get a little more information, get a little more public to come down and do a little more explanations. You know, the story of the property over on Martin Luther King requires a little bit of a discussion too. It's been a junkyard.
Sir, let's
Okay.
keep it to this and wrap it up,
Right.
please.
But what's coming over, where it is, whether there'll be any roads, you know, we're talking about a place where you're calling it a business. There's no bathroom, there's no employees, there's no water, there's no electric, there's no sewer, there's no septic, no physical address, no sign, no customers, no office space. It's totally enclosed in a packed bunch of pine trees right next to 6 very large heating oil tanks that normally the residential zoning of the city of Charlestown in that area does a low impact, low density around those tanks and around that area because it is such a complex area that putting in anything right there poses some problems. So I would say that I would ask that you either just say no, or you provide a continuance so that the public and many of the residents of the community can become a little bit more informed and come down here, as well as Griffith Oil and maybe Norfolk Southern Railroad, because I think they may need to speak on these things that are getting encroaching so closely to theirs. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Hold on just a minute. Is there any questions for the applicant? Or
Do
for the,
Yes. Can you tell me the distance between the property line and the oil tanks?
I think Seth can probably do that, but there are, let's go back.
Well,
just
well,
answer
yeah.
this question.
I'm just looking
I'm
looking at an aerial photo and I don't even see the oil tanks on it.
That's the problem. If you do a Google Earth, there's
Well, that's what I
it's
have.
weird. It's a very, you have Norfolk Southern, you have CSX, you have the oil company, you have county property, city property, and then zoned and all like that.
Here's another one. Oil tanks are 2 properties away.
Right. But
Okay, that's all.
but those are in between. No, it's only one. I think the property on its western side touches.
Thank you, sir.
the thing,
We've got our image. Are you an adjoining property owner?
I'm a property owner. I live in the house diagonal from the entrance to this place.
Okay, so do you use the paper street as well?
I don't, because I can drive straight onto Baylor, but all of my neighbors, many of them use that, and children walk around there. We keep calling it a paper street. One of them is an alleyway that's used for apartment users that The paper street is another story that needs some further explanation of what it is. And I would ask that y'all would go out and visit the thing, maybe sit and contact the folks in the community and do a walkthrough. Just walk, and particularly walk through
Okay,
the property
we're getting
itself.
we're getting out of order here.
Yeah, okay.
So thank you, sir. I
Thank you.
appreciate it. Is there any other questions for our presenter?
No.
Okay, thank you,
Okay,
sir. We're
thank you.
good. Next, I have Shirley Tolbert.
I am Shirley Talbert. I own the house at 858 West Washington Street on the and it is it's on the corner of Washington and Baylor. And I've owned that property since the very early 60s. The negotiations to buy the property were begun in late 50, probably 58, 59, when I first moved here. My son currently lives in the property and has been there for about 20 years. He does own property on the other side, which is Martin Luther King. I'd like to just have a brief statement I would just like to read with you. He has most of the technical information. We built that house in the early 60s. Well, we moved in probably about 61. And the land was purchased from 23 family members that were in 6 states. There are now on that street, the whole street from the intersection of Martin Luther King and the Summit Point Road, which is West Washington Street, from that corner up to the railroad track, which is just a little more than a block. Baylor makes it 2 blocks. But there are approximately 15 houses. I may be off by a house or 2. And at least 4 or 5 are new builds in the last couple of years. Most of the other houses on that street have been maintained pretty well. There are no sidewalks and there are no fire plugs. Now, this area is also part of the area that caused the controversy with the roundabout. And you know about that. Many years ago, when we first moved there.
Ma'am, respectfully, the property, what the applicant's asking.
Yes,
We
but
want
I'm getting to it.
Okay.
I'm getting to it.
Okay, thank you.
When we first moved there, that property contained apartments on both sides of the lots, down behind us. Our property line runs to the first paper street, I guess. We've never been able to really figure that out. So it's right there in the mix. And those apartments were eventually, people moved out of them. I don't know how many there were. There were at least 6 or more. And over the years, that property deteriorated. The property in question deteriorated. There were people dumping garbage back there. There were tires. There were rats coming up on the streets, and the foxes were spotted. the apartments, a complaint was filed, and I've not been able to find a copy, but it's available. The complaint stated all of these things. And the property eventually was cleaned up somewhat based on that complaint. Now, one of my big concerns, by the way, there is a house that sits right.
Ma'am, your time has expired, but we want to hear what your concerns are, but please wrap it up.
May I say, the other person presenting the other side had a lot of time. I have one short paper.
Yes, ma'am. He was the applicant
I'd
and you
like
have
to
three, you had
finish
3
that
minutes.
If I can. One of my big concerns is the state of the property in question. The oil company, although having been there a long time in its location, presents a danger to any building on that property. You can stand up by the oil company and look down on that property. And the neighborhood is rather tight as far now with the building and the remodeling and so forth. Fire and emergency equipment would have a difficult time getting in there and getting out. This was also stated in a Charlestown meeting with the council about the fire up there. The only place to come out is that short stretch of land where my house, my property touches a paper Baylor Street. Baylor Street evidently goes north, south, east, and west on paper, and that's what we discovered. Baylor Street is the only outlet up there. You can't get to Eagle Avenue. I mean, you can't get to Martin Luther King. You cannot get out to near the intersection or the church. You can have to come back up that short street. My concern is that any heavy equipment would damage that street further because it's a small stretch that's not well maintained. The other thing, we've had an eyesore before. All of these trees cannot continue to hide that. Right now, you can't see that, but it can be bad down there. It may be noisy, and the railroad tracks also may cause a problem. I hope the Planning Commission will take a real close look at it. I'm not saying that the property shouldn't ever be used, but for this purpose, it is zoned residential. And I think the residents there have an obligation to keep that road straight, at least the Summit Point and the area. And as you know, it's being developed all through there. I think the future state of the possible results may indicate this becoming a junk equipment cemetery. And at this point, I see no hope for the project to benefit the community. And I think I'd like to see careful consideration. And that's my statement.
Thank you very much, ma'am. We appreciate it.
And I really think, I'm sorry, I don't mean to be disrespectful, but I don't think what I've said here was given the ear that the other people were.
Ma'am, I guarantee you it was.
Next on the list, I have, I believe, Rucker, PO Box 296. I'm sorry, I can't make out the first name. PO Box 296 from Charlestown. Oh, yes, ma'am. If you would, please come up and introduce yourself.
Good afternoon. My name is Angeline Reeler, Reeler.
Well,
So you could, Angeline Reeler. I live at 902 West Washington Street. The project that is discussed today doesn't really affect me, but yet it does. My back faces the property in question. I don't use Baylor Street. I live directly on Washington. There have been issues with trains that can sit anywhere from 1 to 2 hours sometimes, that have jumped either a track or something has happened, and it blocks the Martin Luther King Highway as well as our street on Washington. And I'm sure that's on record, probably somewhere one day it was cleaned to KFC. The traffic through Washington Street. We've had a lot of, now with the new construction over the railroad track from Washington, just over the track, there's another new development which has increased, but the population and the traffic, but the project we're talking about today would not affect me personally. My house does not, my back faces that property that we're in question. And the road, we do not have sidewalks. We have children, probably kindergarten age up to about mid-junior high age that walk that street on the sides. I've lived there 67 years in my family's home. And we didn't have sidewalks then, we still don't have them. Lighting is it has increased and things like that. We've all taken great pride in maintaining our properties. And there's new construction on our street from the church up to, I've been in my home, my parents' home for 67 years. I am 77 years old. In 10 years, I was out of town, not living there. Upon their deaths, I inherited the property. But it needs that tension. We were like stepchildren. I'm going to say like that West End, we're kind of like stepchildren there. I don't think we've gotten the attention that it really needs, and for safety purposes and things like that. And I thank you for the opportunity to speak my point.
absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
M. Denner. 904 West Washington Street.
Dempsey. MV Dempsey.
MV Dempsey?
Yeah.
Yeah, come on up and introduce yourself, please, sir.
Yeah. My name's Mike Dempsey, 904 West Washington Street. I'm basically here just to observe what was going on.
Okay.
You don't need to speak.
Yeah, I mean, do you have any thoughts? Are you for it, against it, indifferent?
No, not at the moment.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mr. Dempsey. Appreciate it, sir. Okay. Is there anyone else that would like to speak either for or against this? Okay, if I can have the applicant back up, sir. Staff, do you know what's property posted?
Yes, there were 2 signs
Okay. Was a site visit conducted?
and also the adjoiner letters were sent out.
Okay.
Just let me start by saying that I know the Tolberts very well, and I respect Mike Tolbert and his mother, Miss Tolbert. So, when you height and all my comments are reflected to their comments. So I do have great respect for them. So regarding the pine trees and all that discussion, actually, if you look at an aerial, there are pine trees directly next to the oil tanks that they have there on site. So I don't know what will happen with the pine trees in terms of spontaneous combustion or things of that nature. As we discussed, there is sort of that use over there. So that's why this makes a great transition, this use particularly. Some of the roads talked about are state roads. Regarding Baylor Road, it is a city street, but The applicant's not here to discuss this, but he lives over on Samuel Street in Charlestown, and there's an alley in his back. He plows them often. So honestly, he needs to get in and out of here, and he's got equipment. That Baylor Street will probably be plowed more than it usually is as well. 11065 is changing. There was a reference to that property on MLK. Mike Tolbert stated, there's nothing there. There's not this, there's not that. Well, we'll get water and sewer there and electric, but in some ways, that's the whole point, is to be de minimis and very limited use. So there sort of isn't going to be a whole lot there once even something is there. And we'll have site improvements to take care of some of the conditions that were talked about. Regarding the comp plan conflicts, you do have two jurisdictions next to each other. But when I was at the city of Charlestown, we tried to annex a huge swath of area, and the county decided that was not what they wanted. So now we have this conflict, and so we're in the jurisdiction of the county, so we have to follow those rules. Finally, Ms. Tolbert did talk about the condition of the property. The applicant did state they've owned it for 50 years. Most of that time was under his father's ownership. The father and son have separate business mindsets of how they operate. And I think you see that with when the son, received property that, out of the control of his father. You saw the intersection of MLK and Summit Point or Washington Street greatly improve in a number of other properties. So, the son should not be bear the responsibilities of the father is what I'm saying. And so, he did clean up two rough structures that were sitting abandoned back there. He did take out the trash. He did clean up things. So this will no longer be a dump site. It's not a dump site now because he keeps an eye on all his property. So he's taking care of this property and let it go fallow because there's nothing there. But the concerns about those things will not be that way in the future. And you can see the nature of his equipment out on his current property. None of it's dilapidated and sitting there with flat tires and abandoned. So that's my only rebuttal to anything from the adjacent neighbors and all that. So I just wanted to clarify any of those comments that were made, but I appreciate your time.
Thank you. And you can stay right there. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, anyone online have any questions for our applicant? Okay.
Yeah, not at this time.
Okay. It's a conditional use. And I am familiar with the area. I travel through there pretty often. I absolutely understand the concerns of one, the railroad being right there and the fuel storage. However, we also have to acknowledge and understand that, these are existing businesses. They're already approved uses. We're looking at what the applicant is asking for. Does it meet the criteria? As far as the use, whether it's compatible with comprehensive plan, personally, I believe it is. Contractors' yards are allowed as a conditional use by the zoning ordinance. The intensity and scale with the existing and potential land uses. I think it is important to note that the equipment that he wants to bring to this site is currently located across the street. It's there. It is a ongoing intensity and scale. It's already there. It's being used.
I've got to imagine the oil company has much greater traffic in and out on a daily basis there.
Well, we can see from the aerial image within the public record here, there's pictures of heavy duty trucks that are there.
Mm-hmm.
the,
Plus, if not this use, what use?
Right.
I mean, is it
Yeah,
just
well, I
supposed
mean-
to sit vacant forever? I mean,
Or
I
they
think
could
he's
put-
trying to make use of a piece of property that he's owned for 50 years, has been in his family. And I don't see how this is going to detrimentally impact the neighborhood in any way.
well, when you, especially when it comes to that, which I mean, I guess he could try to figure out some way to put a house in there, but you know, as far as discouraging the appropriate development or use of the adjacent land and buildings, you know, most of it's already built. As far as what's adjacent, yeah, it's adjacent to commercial and industrial with the railroad properties. And he's trying to get that stuff, that equipment off the main road. So I mean, I think to be honest with you, he's trying to help the area. He's trying to bring it up. I think segueing into number 4, the neighborhood character and surrounding property values will be safeguarded by the implementation of the landscape buffer. He did also ask for, or he stated he wanted to put a fence up, which is not required by the
Right.
zoning ordinance. He did ask for a variance of the buffer, although I think that still satisfies what the intent of the zoning ordinance is. For section 8.9 of the zoning ordinances is, going to make excessive noise, odor, smoke, ambient air quality problems, vibration, glare, heat, toxic matter, or fire hazards. I didn't hear any evidence that this use is going to.
And the train has to be the loudest thing.
Yeah,
Going by
the
with-
train and then the fuel station, which have been operating for,
Yeah, I mean,
they're not new uses.
no.
So I don't think that personally this use is going to contribute or add any further nuisance
Yeah,
than what may already be there.
I appreciated he's planting the trees and the fence. Most people come in and don't want to plant trees. Tree will grow 2 foot in a year. So, he's putting the building back as far as possible. I thought the way it was presented, they're really trying to make it work as well as possible.
I do believe that it was a very thorough presentation.
Yes.
This property is not in a rural zoning district, and the Historical Landmarks Commission did not identify any findings for the proposed land use, and the applicant did not propose any signs with his request. And I do want to say, for observations, it's very much appreciated that you guys you take pride in your community. You guys are you're trying to keep it nice. I can understand about the sidewalks that you would like to have, better visibility, better accessibility. And I can understand that if something did happen with that fuel depot, that's going to be problems for everybody. I get it. I do. Though we are not the board to, what we decide is whether his idea fits within the parameters of our zoning ordinance, and then the land use and the criteria that we just went through. This isn't a building permit. There still are planning commission meetings. There are times and ways to get the community involved. I did ask staff to make sure it was checked by our department to make sure that the property was posted, that there was a sign, that there was letters that went out to the neighbors letting them know that this was going to happen. So, ma'am, I don't want you to feel disrespected by any way, because I heard you loud and clear. I did. Although in particular with this, I think that it meets the criteria, it satisfies the criteria of the conditional use permit, and I think it's a net positive for the neighborhood, to be
Yeah,
honest.
the use is compatible. There's other uses right next to it, similar. I think it's not gonna do much of anything. It's more like a storage facility for lawnmowers. I don't think there's going to be a lot of noise. Activity will probably be limited to just the normal business hours of the day, so it won't be an issue at night. As far as the use, I can see it being appropriate for that use at that location.
Is there any further discussion? Members online, you have any questions or anything to add?
I do not.
No, I think you summarized it well, Matt. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, first, this will have to be addressed in three different motions. But first, do I have a motion to approve agenda item number 2, file number 26-3-CUP, the request for a conditional use permit to operate a construction company. Proposed consists of a 30 by 60 building plus a parking and equipment storage area with no on-site customer visits and no signage proposed.
So moved.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Conditional use permit carries. Okay, do I have a motion to approve agenda item number 2, request number 2, file number 26-13-ZV, a variance from appendix B in section 4.6 to reduce the side setback from the rear from 25 to 15 feet, the reduction in required front parking and drive aisle setback from 15 feet to 5 feet, and the reduction in site distance requirements of 75 feet to 5 feet for the proposed project.
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And do I have a motion to approve request number 3? It's a variance from appendix B in section 4.11 to reduce the landscape buffer requirements for the proposed project to the reduction required buffer will be from 10 feet to 5 feet. And the reduction in required 6 feet tall pines at the time of planting to 4 feet, and for them to be planted every 10 feet.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Motion carries. The applicant was Mark Roper. Mark Roper is a property owner. It's at a vacant lot in Baylor Street in Charlestown. The parcel is 0.34 acres in the residential growth district with parcel ID noted in the agenda. And board members, I do apologize. At the beginning of the meeting, I did not go over
good.
the approval of the minutes.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Has everyone had a chance to take a look at the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Any corrections, objections?
I hate to
have none.
nitpick, but was I absent at the last meeting? It says I was, board members absent.
Oh, I don't know. Were you here? I wasn't.
Yeah, you were here, right? Yeah, you were here.
Think so. I don't think I've missed any.
Scribner's error. He can bring you back.
No biggie, just saying.
Any other corrections?
I was not here, so I will abstain, but
You guys go with it online?
Yes.
Yes, it looked good to me.
Jenna Lee, you got that? You got the corrections that he was here? Okay. Awesome.
You sure you were here?
Well, thank you very much.
Look at the film.
Run the tape.
Motion to approve May 28th minutes as amended.
So moved.
All those in favor?
Aye.
I abstained since I wasn't here.
Anyone opposed?
And I can't verify Keith was here or not.
Carried unanimously.
It's a mystery.
Mr. Zoning Administrator, you got a report for us?
I do. So our next regularly scheduled meeting is for Thursday, July 23rd. The deadline for submissions was Friday, June 18th. Your zoning certificate activity report is in your packets. As far as its solar text amendment, the Planning Commission has tabled the solar text amendment at their meeting. Well, they tabled it in June until September. And as far as a Sportsplex athletic field complex text amendment, we currently have a planning intern for the summer. And this person has been tasked with doing some preliminary research of similar ordinances in other jurisdictions. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
Legal counsel?
Commissioner, I don't really have anything to say about these cases at this point. They're proceeding through the system.
Welcome back, Mr. Cochran. Thank you very much. Is there any further business for the Board of Zoning Appeals?
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Uh,
Aye. Thank you.